Okay, so hello everyone. Good afternoon. We're going to get this program started. So my name is Jonathan Inda. I am a professor and chair of the Department of Latin American and Latino Studies, also known as LALS. And I know I used to be something different in the past, I don't remember. So first, I just want to welcome all of you to today's event, celebrating 50 years, the making of Latin American and Latino Studies, which is the kickoff event to our semester-long celebration of the 50th anniversary of the founding of our department. Now, I would like to extend a special welcome to our alumni. Actually, how many alumni are here? I think there's quite a few. Yeah, so quite a few alumni. Thank you so much for coming back and joining us in the celebration. Yay. Now, I also wanted to extend a warm welcome to Congressman Jesus Chuy Garcia, who will he will say a few remarks shortly. I don't know if I also want to extend a welcome to Carlos Ramirez Rosa, Alderman. I don't know if he's here. Byron Cicho Lopez. They RSVP'd, so at some point they'll be here. So you can let them know that I actually thank them for coming. And also Carlos Tortolero, founder and former president of the National Museum of Mexican Art. Finally, I want to thank UIC faculty, staff, and students, and the broader Chicago community for coming out today. It's great to see so many people here. Now, this year marks a momentous occasion for Latin American Latino Studies. Reaching 50 years I think it's actually quite an accomplishment. When LAS was founded, it was not clear how long it would be around, given fairly strong institutional resistance to units such as ours that challenge traditional modes of knowledge production in the academy. And it is really only because of fervent student and community activism that LAS came to exist and that it's still around today. LALS was born out of the labor of student and community activists who were looking for a curriculum that could analyze power structures of imperialism, class, race, gender in Latin America and the United States, and give students the tools to affect social and political change in favor of a more just, diverse, and democratic society. Now, today, I'm not saying this just because I'm chair, but I really think this. LAS is a thriving academic unit. So last year, after 49 years as a program, we officially became a department. So that's... we didn't actually get any more money or resources, but I think it actually means more institutional solidity, so it's good. So we have 15 stellar faculty who are producing cutting-edge work on a wide range of topics critical to understanding Latino and Latin American life and culture. We offer an undergrad major, a minor, an MA, a two-year MA degree, and a graduate concentration. And we have now graduated scores of justice-oriented students who have gone on to have successful careers and work to make the world a better place. LALS has also played a key role as an institutional leader in the field of Latin American and Latino studies. The journal Latino Studies, which is one of the premier journals in our field, was actually founded in LALS. And we now house the Crossing Latinidades Humanities Research Initiative, which is a Foundation-founded project that promotes the training of doctoral students and youth scholarship in emerging areas of inquiry about Latinos. So we are really proud of where we are today and what we have accomplished, and there are a lot more things that our faculty do every day. Now, our event this afternoon is meant to reflect on the founding and development of LALS, and we have two panels. Now, the first panel, which features several activists who were around from the very beginning, will focus on the founding of LALS out of student and community movements. And the second panel, composed of former directors of the department, will focus on how the department has developed, so its challenges, its successes, and impact. After these two panels, we will have a reception, which will be kicked off by celebratory remarks from the directors of our two sibling organizations, Latin American Recruitment and Educational Services, better known as LALS, and the Rafael Cintron Ortiz Latino Cultural Center, known as the LCC. Now, these organizations were also founded during the 1970s out of the same student and community movements, and they will also be celebrating the 50th anniversaries fairly soon. Now, before we begin our panels, it gives me great pleasure to introduce three speakers who will say a few words of welcome. Now, first, we are very fortunate to have with us today Congressman Jesus Chuy Garcia, who's, of course, a great advocate of Latino community and also of UIC. He will be followed by Karen Conley, our great Provost and Vice President and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. She is the Chief Academic Officer for the university. And also Jane Rhodes, Professor of Black Studies and Associate Dean in our college. So Jane has a really long title, so I'm just going to spare that title. So I'll just call her Associate Dean in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. So thank you to the three for agreeing to say a few remarks. Now, thank you all again for coming out today. It's really great to see so many faces, both alumni from the 70s through now, and then faculty, staff, and community members. Now, I'm going to turn the podium over to Congressman Garcia, then followed by Provost Colley, and then Associate Dean Rhodes. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Inda, for the introduction. And man, I'm really excited, and I got more excited seeing old friends come through the door there, and hugs and kisses and everything else. When Marta tracked me down and told me that I had to be here one way or another because I had some other commitments scheduled, it was pretty tough to get out of it. But I wanted to be here. I couldn't be here at 4 o'clock, but I could make it at 2, even if for 5 minutes. And I just want to share a few things with you that are personal. First is I arrived on campus here as a freshman in 1974. That's 50 years ago. Can't believe it, man. I got admitted through the EAP program, even though I didn't need to, but I wanted to, because I graduated from a Catholic high school. And, I just wanted to be a part of something, and I wound up there. Yet, the place that I hung out at was mostly at the Latin American Studies program in LALS, with Chuy Negrete and Linda Coronado and a bunch of other folks that later came Leonard, of course, and on and on. And then later I learned about people like Carlos Heredia and the fight to create this department. I almost said program. And of course, all the other fruits that have come from this. I am grateful because I'm the first in my family from a little ranchito in Durango that you will not find on the map to get a college education. So I'm very, very grateful. I also have a master's degree at the ripe age of 47, or that was supposed to be young age, 47, in this century, class of 2002. That would be me, urban planner. And my most important credentials in life have been being a nonprofit leader, being a policy and empowerment advocate, and of course, a progressive elected official. And I will leave it at that. So it's great to be celebrating this wonderful anniversary. Thank you for the invitation, Chairman, and of course, Provost Colley, for being here today. Today we commemorate not just the department's creation, but also pay tribute to its journey and the profound impact that it has had on students like myself, campus, and community. I wouldn't be here today if I had not attended UIC. The diverse and welcoming student and faculty and other folks that made this place a most unique place. However, that was not always the case. And as we must reflect and remember that we are all here today to celebrate the program's inception due to the passion, the activism, and the unwavering commitment, especially from Puerto Rican and Mexican communities and all of our allies, of course. Yes, 50 years ago, that's a half a century, this program was born out of the desire and determination of student activism for representation and inclusion, ensuring that Latino, Latina experiences and histories have a place in their academic journey. Of course, the program itself has evolved from its inception to what we know today, and that is the department. This evolution is a testament to the fact that the establishment of a new academic department was a response to the call for equity and inclusivity made by students in and leading up to 1974. This was a significant step towards Latinos and Latinas seeing themselves reflected and their heritage in the fabric of education. UIC has embraced and adapted, offering a space where our community's perspective can be studied, celebrated, and respected. It's equally important that the faculty within the department reflect the student population. This enrichment of the campus environment empowers students to see their identities and experiences represented by faculty who share similar lived experiences. And of course, administrators who also have been key to all of these things. As faculty and administrators, you bring more than just your expertise and training. You all bring cultural awareness, a shared identity, and most importantly, in my opinion, empathy. You all do more than just teach. You inspire, as I have been inspired, as many of you have been inspired, and others who are in class are being inspired, or they may be working as well. And you empower future Latino and Latina leaders. These students will drive change. They will champion social justice and create impactful contributions to our communities and to society, and do it transnationally as well. Today, we have the opportunity to reflect with pride, but it's also a moment to look forward with anticipation to the next 50 years. Let's honor the founders who fought for the department's creation, the dedicated faculty who have contributed to the growth, and of course, the community organizations and leaders that have been staunch allies, and the countless students who have added value, of course. We must recognize, ya casi termino, that our work is far from over. We're still in a society where we must fight for a seat at the table. We must remain steadfast in our dedication for creating and keeping spaces of inclusion, equity, and justice, and we must build on the progress that we've made. This is how we honor those who came before us and paved the way for future generations as well. It's truly an honor to be a UIC alum and to be a part of this great community. Felicidades, muy excelente aniversario de plata. Los felicito. Ahora preparémonos para el futuro. Mil gracias.
Doing this. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's really thrilling to be here, and on behalf of the entire administration of UIC, including Chancellor Marilyn Miranda, who cannot be here today, I want to welcome our very auspicious audience with all these alumni in the audience. It's great to see everybody. And I am personally thrilled to be here to celebrate you, this really incredible milestone in LAS's history. This milestone marks 5 decades of incredible scholarship, leadership, and community engagement. And all the work that the faculty, staff, and students of this now department, you reminded me about that, I forgot, it's a new department, have had a profound impact on the many communities that UIC serves. I think of LALS as a hub of interdisciplinary scholarship, bringing together scholars in history, in arts, sociology, political science, and literature to really explore the very complex issues that shape the experience of Latino and Latin American communities. And I know that LALS has a long list of incredible accomplishments, so many that I couldn't even tell you all about them, but one that is very near and dear to my heart that has already been mentioned by Jonathan, and it's because I had a little bit of an administrative link to it as the former dean of the Graduate College and also now as provost, was the Crossing Latinidades program that Amalia and Nana started. I didn't see Nana today, but I saw Amalia. Where is she? There she is. And this program, to me, I was so excited when I saw that the Mellon Foundation funded it again at $5 million. This is a real consortium program that supports Latinos humanities scholars, graduate students, and their mentors. And it's across a huge consortium of universities, and it really is going to diversify our faculty, in my mind. And to my mind, this program was the basis, the seed that started the Hispanic Serving Research University Alliance. And I know Nana and Amalia have tried to get that across to the current leadership of this alliance, and I want to say I believe that this program is really a model for all programs coming in the future from the alliance. So thank you, Nana, and thank you, Amalia, for that. The faculty in this department have played a pivotal role in advancing knowledge and shaping policies in immigration, social justice, human rights. And there's, again, a lot of community engagement, a lot of amazing work that's been done, but there's a couple things that were brought to my attention that I thought were particularly important to mention. And that's the work that community members have done to assist in the social integration of immigrants in Chicago by disseminating basic information on workers' rights and social services, and also the work done to document the contributions of undocumented students at UIC to the immigrant rights movement. I think it's so important to support these students, and I know at UIC we really truly believe in this mission. There are so many more achievements that have advanced our understanding of Latin American and Latino experiences. And you guys should all be so proud of everything you've done. So as we celebrate this 50-year milestone, and to repeat what Shui said, I don't think I have to remind you that our work, is not yet done. There's still much more to do to ensure the voices of Latinx communities are heard and their stories are told, and to effect the changes we want to see. So thank you, and congratulations again on this remarkable achievement, and here's to another 50 years.
Hello, everyone. Hi, folks, and thank you to Congressman Garcia he has a lot of work to do, right, in Washington, D.C. Hopefully he's got all of our backs here in Chicago. My name is Jane Rhodes. Long before I was an associate dean with the impossible title in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, I was the chair of Black Studies. I've spent my entire career in ethnic studies, and so Latino and Latin American studies is very close to my heart, and I've considered this to be, you know, a central bulwark of the intellectual, political, and community work that we do. So I'm here to offer greetings from the Dean, Lisa Freeman, who couldn't be here today, and also to say hi to all my friends and colleagues and community, because this is an extraordinary department. So I'm just going to say a few words, but I think we need to get some energy going. So I want to say congratulations to LALS for 50 years. Let's make some noise here. Come on. Thank you. I mean, this is an extraordinary achievement. You know, the folks who were on the front lines in the 1960s arguing that Latino studies or Chicano studies or Latin American studies was a legitimate discipline, they faced so many obstacles. This was a social movement, right? This was not just something that went on in the academy behind closed doors. People took to the streets. Right? People took risks. Students were expelled from universities. Faculty members lost their jobs to create these disciplines and to create these programs. And it was a struggle. And we're still somewhat in a state of struggle, although we have much to celebrate as the newest department. That's so awesome. I first of all want to note, in my 10 years at UIC, I've had an extraordinary opportunity to work with the leadership of LALS. So Jonathan and Amalia and Ralph and Marta and all of the faculty members. This is an amazing, amazing group. I hope you all appreciate the intellectual capacity of these folks, the hard work that they put in. It's a small group that does mighty labor. And so, you know, I want you all to, a round of applause to the folks that have kept LALS going. Thank you. So just a couple of key things that I wanted to highlight. This celebration is meaningful both in the classroom and beyond the walls of the academy. This is department, and all of our ethnic studies departments, what we call interdisciplinary departments, are concerned not only about what goes on in the classroom and our intellectual life, but what goes on in the community, and to bridge that. I think that is a hallmark. That's why so many folks are here today. This is a sense of community. We don't get turnouts like this very often at events at UIC, so I think all of you all being here and standing witness to the success of this program, it really means something. LALS is the history of the United States, right? The work that you do is about telling the history of the U.S. It's the history of the Western Hemisphere. It is the history of the globe, right? And up until the 1970s, that perspective was denied. I will add to the provost sort of notion of the interdisciplinary as bringing together all of these disciplines, because one of the other things that came out of the creation of LALS was the sense that this in and of itself is a discipline. It's a field of inquiry that stands on its own. You don't have to be from English or sociology or political science because we do Latino studies, right? And we're proud of that. And we are borrowing from and making use of other fields to move forward the idea that this population, these communities, this history, these traditions, these cultures matter. And one of the key things about this department is, you know, we know the demographics of the city of Chicago. And so this department was really crucial for telling students that they are seen and that they matter, and that our stories, our family stories, our community stories, our political histories matter. right? And that they're worthy of being told in the classroom, they're worthy of being published in articles, they're worthy of being in books, they're worthy of being in films and so forth. And that, it's hard for us, we take it for granted now 50 years later, right? The department's here, we know it's here. But for earlier generations, they couldn't take it for granted, right? That you could actually learn this knowledge, that you could actually learn this material. So I want us to think about this in this current political moment. And I know I'm bringing up the very challenging political environment that we live in right now. But, the liberal arts and sciences are under assault. Universities are under assault. Ethnic studies is under assault. There are a lot of people in a lot of universities who say, why do we need this, right? Why do we, that is taking resources away from other programs. Diversity programs, DEI programs across the country are under assault, right? People are being fired. These programs are closing down. So, two things that I think we want to do. First, to celebrate the fact that we're here to stay, we're not going anywhere. We have a university, the chancellor, the president, we have a governor that all believe in this project and support it, right? So we are the lucky ones that are not under constant assault. And I think that's important for all of us to keep in mind. But on the other hand, we still have to justify our existence, right? We still have to explain why we need resources, why we need support, why we need to exist, right? So the best way to do that is to encourage future generations to follow in the footsteps of all the alumni in this room, to take courses in LALS, right? Whether you're in medical school, whether you're in business college, whether you are thinking about being a public school teacher, especially if you're going to be a public school teacher. I can't think of a better background than this, no matter what you want to teach. If you want to be a high school English teacher, you better take some classes in LALS. You should major or minor in the field. So you can tell I'm an advocate. I believe in this project. I've lived it throughout my career. And I think that we need to, be vigilant, keep up the support, spread the word in the community, get students to come here, and get students to make sure that they cross the doorway of LALS and enjoy all of the amazing talent that's waiting for them. So thank you, enjoy the rest of the day, and congratulations again.
So we're going to go ahead and start our first panel. So if the panelists can come up here, we'll have a seat up here in the head of the room.
Pero ahora les dejamos a los hombres más.
I'm sorry? Yeah.
Sí, sí.
Okay. Can everyone hear me all right? Yes? Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. I am Professor Lilia Fernandez. I teach here in the Department of History, and I'm an affiliated faculty with Latin American and Latino Studies. I am so excited to be here today to celebrate and commemorate the history of a program, a movement, and a community activist effort that led to us being here in 2024. How many of you who were on this campus in 1974 ever thought that UIC would be an HSI, a Hispanic Serving Institution? That 1/3 of the students on this campus would be Latino, of some Latinx heritage. So it's really remarkable. And I want to say also, we have our bios in the program, so I'm not going to say much about myself or introduce the panelists. I'd like them to talk more about their experiences and their contributions here with, in helping to develop LALS. But I do want to point out that I'm a historian of Latino Chicago. This is what I've dedicated my life's work to, and this is what I teach, one of the things I teach on this campus. And so some of you may be familiar with a book I've written, Brown in the Windy City, Mexicans and Puerto Ricans in Post-War Chicago. Thank you. I didn't do that to get applause, but thank you. I appreciate it. I'm still very much interested in documenting and recording the history of these populations in the city. So some of you, particularly alumni, may have seen on the RSVP form that asking you if you'd be interested in doing an oral history interview. If you're willing to, I would love to speak with you or have my students speak to you. We want to hear your stories. And let me just say that the 3 people you see up here on this panel right now are but a fraction of the people who contributed to the creation of LALS. And so there's still much more for us to learn, more for us to reflect upon, and more for us to celebrate. And I hope that we'll engage in conversations during the reception. And I will have business cards to leave at the front desk if anyone wants to follow up and talk with me. Moving right along, because we do have a tight program here, a couple other housekeeping things. I want to tell my students from History 104, if any of you are here for extra credit, please make sure you sign in at the table out front so I know you were here. Lastly, before I move to our panelists, I'd like to thank Marta Ayala for all the work that she does. I'm sure the former directors will have things to say as well, but I just want to note that on the RSVP list, when people responded to the question, how did you find out about this? So many people mentioned Marta. And I think it's a testament to just, the work that she does on behalf of the department. So, without further ado, let me turn things over to our panelists. Actually, no, sorry. Before we turn things over to the panelists, we're going to show a short trailer of a documentary that one of our panelists, Irma Saucedo, has put together. It's really wonderful. I hope that this will work okay. And Ivan is here as our backup. Thank you so much, Ivan, for your support. Let's see if we can get this to go.
Sonido.
Nuestros países que nos haga imposible vivir en ellos. Así que lidien con eso, porque ese es el resultado de lo que han creado.
At that time in Pilsen, there were many schools that were overcrowded with kids, and they put Latino kids in like buses. They looked like buses, like vans or something like that, but they were, I don't know what they call them, but they were essentially, there's a name for them, and the name slips my mind right now. But they had Latinos having their education in this bus.
Antes de 1968, la Universidad de Illinois estaba en el muelle municipal de la ciudad. Cuando establecieron la universidad aquí, pues empezaron pues toda la gente se tenía que mover, corrieron a la gente. El barrio, todos los mexicanos que vivían de este lado, donde está ahorita la universidad, se fueron un poco al sur, donde nosotros vivíamos, que se llama un barrio, que era un barrio checo, que se llama Pilsen.
La lucha de Circle comienza desde entonces, desde la destrucción de esa comunidad para construir la universidad.
Que en el 1969-70 se realizó el primer estudio sobre lo que llaman la deserción escolar de los puertorriqueños. Este estudio se publicó luego, se intitulaba Puerto Rican Dropouts, Numbers and Motivation. Y ese estudio desembocó en que el 72.9% de los jóvenes que que entraban a las escuelas públicas, a la secundaria de Chicago. Puertorriqueños, 72.9% desertaban.
As a child in elementary school, we didn't have Latino teachers really. I would get my hands beat with a ruler because we would speak Spanish. And they would say, "You're in America now, put out your hand, no Spanish, English." It was so comfortable to be able to say, "Hey, ¿sabes qué?" And they'll say, "What did you say?" No, nothing, and palo, you know. So corporal punishment was allowed at that time in the school system in Chicago.
Era el 28 de septiembre. Yo venía de una actividad que se había hecho en solidaridad con Chile, donde yo tuve que cantar, que habló James Petras y toda esa cosa. Entonces yo voy de ahí al University Hall.
I saw when people took over University Hall, when they were not allowing people to go upstairs.
Teníamos como una especie de concentración, había gente haciendo discursos, yo estaba cantando, nadie estaba tratando de entrar a ningún sitio, hasta donde yo sé, para tomar ninguna oficina. Había simplemente una concentración en el vestíbulo de abajo, que después la Guardia Universitaria decidió que quería desalojar. Estaba en el micrófono y yo estaba cantando y yo le estaba diciendo a la gente que no se fuera, que no nos fuéramos nada, que no acatáramos la orden de desalojar el edificio. Y entonces es cuando empiezan a desalojar el University Hall, que entonces yo dejo de cantar y nos sentamos y nos arrestan.
So that's the trailer to the documentary that Irma Saucedo has put together. And as you can see, there are a number of people who were in this room who are featured there, and others who are not here today, but who were very critical to the struggle to open up UIC to Latino students in the 1970s, specifically to Puerto Rican and Mexican American students, and to create LALS. So let me turn it over now to our panelists and start. First, we'll hear from Ada Lopez, and then Irma Saucedo, and then Carlos Heredia. Again, their bios are in the program if you'd like to learn more about them. But I would like them now to introduce themselves and describe how they were connected to UIC in 1974.
You have it.
Or if you're not ready, Ada, you can pass it to
Yeah.
Irma. And make sure you have the mic close to you.
Yeah.
I started at Loop Junior College, now Harold Washington College, in 1968. So I'm going to ask some of you, my peers, to remember 1968. You know, the war, you know, the protest, civil rights, women's movement, you know, and so on. So these were tumultuous times, and they weren't only tumultuous times here in the United States, but in Mexico, in France, and many places in the world. And there were a lot of student protests, and students wanted inclusion. They wanted to see themselves represented. And at Loop Junior College, we created an organization called LALS, Organization of Latin American Students. We quickly realized the importance of coalition because we were so few, and we joined forces with the, it was called the Black Student Union, and then we published a newspaper called Third World, and this newspaper was our voice and our platform that we distributed. We also demanded and protested you know, their policies. We demanded more representation of faculty. We wanted more students, recruitment, retention. We even picketed with the teachers, with the faculty when they went on strike, because we had so many allies in the faculty, faculty of color that we coalesced with, and they would advise us because, of course, we were students and very young And we knew what we wanted, but we did not know how the system worked. So we relied on them for data and for a meeting of the minds so that we could do things intelligently. We fought and we had some successes. We succeeded in getting the first work-study program for Latino students because part of our concerns was the fact that students could not afford to go to the universities, to go to college. So we were students, but at the same time, we felt that we were an extension of the community. And we had experiences in the community. So for us, it was a seamless relationship between community and campus. This is relevant because when I came to this campus in 1971, that's how we came. We had already established ourselves as activists. We were strong. We knew strategy. We knew we had 2 years of training, let's say. And in 1970, it was a different world. We didn't have technology, so we spent long hours after our studies in front of mimeograph machines, putting ink in the drum and spinning and making copies one by one and then distributing those. And I remember we would at 2 in the morning, go to the pancake house, have breakfast. And we were young and strong and we could come to campus on time for our class. And so this is when this is what I remember. In 1974, I was no longer on campus, but I continued being active, and one of the most important things that I participated in was the selection of a director for Latin American Studies after the protest of 1973.
Thank you, Ada. I'm sorry, I have the unfortunate task of being the timekeeper. So you'll see me passing notes to them. But go ahead.
I'll read faster.
No, you're good.
Okay.
I'll save the applause to the end if that's okay. Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
first I want to thank you, Dr. Inda, Dr. Fernandez, Marta, and everybody for being here, for you to organizing this. And I hope that what we convey today, it's going to give you some idea of why we have to keep on doing what we used to do some time ago. I came to Chicago in 1971, at the end of 1971, after I finished high school in Mexico City. I have to tell you that for the young people that don't know about this, that 68 was very important. I witnessed the organization of the students in Mexico and the repression that the government carried against the students. In 1968, I was 15 years old, and I witnessed that. In 1971, I was in my last year of high school, and I witnessed students taking over the city to demand freedom and democracy, and also I saw how the government repressed the students, killed them, jailed them, and did all of the things that you can imagine. So I consider at that time when I came to Chicago, I consider myself a part of this movement of young people that believed that the world could be changed. And I think that's a very important part of our generation, and I'm very proud of it. Because if I think back, I think that our generation was convinced that we could change the world and that we had agency. Nobody had to tell us anything about it. We acted on it because we were convinced that we could do things. And I think that's very important. I got here in 1971. In 1972, I was admitted to the University of Illinois here, Circle, we used to call it. And I have to tell you that as much as I was committed to being a militant, I was committed to my family. And I'm so glad some of them are here. Ada mentioned some of these. For the ones that are Mexican, are still coming in, or the ones that remember, family was the support that we had to have if we wanted to go to the university or to keep on studying, because it was a way for us to get a better life, and to do better in general. So I was committed to my militancy and to my family. And I think I can remember that the reason I felt so strong is because I knew I had 14 people behind me, my brothers, my sisters, my father, and my mother, and the community. And they were all part of the push for all of us to be here. I was the first woman to go to the university in my family, and probably the first of many families, in that community, because they really appreciated education. So I can tell you that when I began here at Circle, the first thing that struck me was that I felt alienated and alien. Like it was mostly a white campus. I used to say to my friends that there are only 10 of us, Latinos at the university. I could never see a Latino, very few black students. And I think that in 1973, beginning January, I began to realize the mechanisms that this university had to keep Latinos out. I had to face that. I faced it because at first they told me that I couldn't come into this university because my family couldn't pay for that. So 1973 for me was very important. That's when I met very important people like Rafael, Oscar Lopez, Mark Kramer, Josefina Kramer, and many of us that got together and joined in the struggle to get the Latin American and recruitment program. So I can say that by 1974, the joint movement of Puerto Rican and Mexican students and Puerto Rican and Mexican community had succeeded in establishing the Latin American recruitment program, and needless to say, we felt empowered.
Thank you, Irma. Carlos.
Muy buenas tardes y gracias por su presencia. Just a few things that, there's so many things that we need to talk about, but we can only mention a few. Some of them were mentioned by Ada. We were at Loop College back then, and I was a part also, along with Ada, Omar, and others. We founded in 1968 an organization called LALS, Organization of Latin American Students, and made demands on the administration of Loop College. One of the demands was that we wanted our own newspaper because the official campus paper did not pay any attention to us. So we sided with the black students. We presented a demand to the administration. We were given an office, resources, supplies, a budget, and we put out the third world. So we started building alliances at Loop College. A number of us also took advantage of a number of opportunities. Some of us went to the 1969 National Youth Liberation Conference in Denver, convened by Corky Gonzalez, which was a tremendous event back in 1969. That's where the concept of Aztlán was discussed, was promoted, and El Plan Espiritual de Aztlán was published, written by a number of poets who attended the conference. We participated in the discussions as well. We had also, a little before that, we had demonstrated against the barbarity of the Mexican government in repressing the student movement in 1968 in Mexico City, and especially the massacre of students, children, adults at the housing complex, at the Tlatelolco housing complex in Mexico City. I lived about 4 blocks from where this was. So we were in contact with some members of the El Comité Nacional de Lucha of the students. And so we protested the fact that the Mexican government had repressed violently those students and other members who were in attendance at a huge rally by sending the army and firing upon those present. There's been no accounting for the number of people who died, actual numbers, between 300 and 500. There's been no accounting, and nobody has been held accountable with all the governments that belong to the PRI, the Institutional Revolutionary Party. Up to now, we don't have a research documentation to prove that so many were killed. But anyway, our activism was inspired by student movement in Mexico City. It was inspired by the farm workers in California. It was inspired by the Black Panthers. It was inspired by the Brown Berets, by going to Denver, by coming in contact with the leaders of the Chicano movement, Jorge González, Cesar Chavez, José Ángel Gutiérrez, Reyes López Tijerina. So that was basically what we came with when we came to Circle. I came to Circle back in 1970, and I arrived with the benefits of my involvement in those situations.
Thank you, Carlos. I'd like to ask you each now if you could share some of your thoughts on how the struggle for Latin American and Latino studies developed here at Circle Campus, as it was called back then.
Yeah. So you have a sense of who we were at that time and the historical context. And we are students who come on this campus, and we come with a history of activism in our community and activism at Loop Junior College, which was called, the city colleges was called the Harvard of the working class. And in an anyway, so we come on this campus with that history, with that experience, and we, as Irma says, we find that we can't see anyone. We don't find anyone. I was I remember being in a lecture hall with 300 students studying sociology, and I see one dark-haired woman, Maria Mangual, who later went to found Mujeres Latinas en Acción, and we became instant friends, sisters. That was the situation, but the thing that I thought was the most egregious was that what we studied was research, and that was based on the deficiency theories. And we sat in classes and we learned about these people that were culturally deprived. We were at-risk people, and and this was what was being taught to us, and we felt insulted. We felt, that there was a movement, that there was a culture that wanted to marginalize us, to disparage us, our families, our whole history, our homeland, and that of our family. And that's, I think, what that contradiction, that tension built. And I think that was behind, our passion and our struggle to change. And we started, and that was for me, that was the motivation. And it was, and we were called, communist, and we were called all kinds of names, but we were the other on campus. We felt as we were wearing a sign on our face and being pointed to. There were studies of people across the country at the time, this is 1973, that made efforts to scientifically prove that we, Blacks and Latinos, did not have the capacity for abstract thinking. Can you believe that? And so you can imagine the tension that was building inside of us. And and the university had walls, and we were in this enclave of downstate, you know, a political deal with Mayor Daley. And that's, I think, what I remember the most of those days. That moved us quickly.
Right. Like Cara says, I think that's one of the important things. You know, once we were in here and we felt that we had brought the community and Latinos into this university, we had to face the curriculum of this university. And just like she mentioned, I had my first sociology class, 100, I had to hear this theory by Arthur Jensen, who said that Latinos and blacks had less intelligence genes. And that's why we were not going to make it in the university. And I said, my God, this was 1973. Genes had not been discovered yet or separated. How could he talk about intelligence genes? But they were teaching that as a science. And we had to sit there and say, what? And try to respond. So I believe that the struggle for Latin American studies became strong because it was obvious for me, for us at least, you know, that we were getting Latinos into the university, but there were no spaces or professors that could teach Latin American history, literature, culture, and revolutionary history. Instead, there was a Spanish department that believed that the only good culture was the Spanish culture from Spain, because we did not have any culture, and that, in fact, we had no history. You know, we were like some kind of human beings that came of nowhere. The lack of knowledge about history, anthropology, literature, and economics, and the development from Latin America, Mexico, Puerto Rico, etc., manifested itself, the lack of knowledge, the ignorance manifested itself in racist practices in the classroom and toward the students of Mexican or Puerto Rican origin. So having Latino students coming to the university wasn't enough from my perspective and the perspective of many of us, you know, all of us that were there, and I'll keep on mentioning names because we were all there, you know, Mark Kramer, Josefina, Rafael, Oscar, all of us, you know, wasn't enough because the institution was supposed to be changed. We were not coming here to receive all of the ignorance that this institution had as an institution. We needed to create a space of knowledge about our own history and claim its rightful place in this university.
And just so you know, Carlos, before you start, there may be some students who are leaving because they have to go to class. So do not take offense or think that they're walking
That's
out.
fine. No problem.
Go ahead.
Some of us who came from Loop College, specifically close friends and colleagues, compañeros, Omar Lopez and Edgar Nájera and Chuy Negrete. We were on campus as part of a teacher training program, Teacher Corps, that its goal was basically to produce a number of teachers who would eventually teach in predominantly Latino neighborhoods, specifically in Pilsen, La 18, or Little Village, La 26. And so we went through that program, the teacher training program. We were fortunate enough to have teachers also, visiting professors, Puerto Ricans and Mexicans, who taught us and assigned to us all kinds of readings that opened our eyes even wider than we thought they were. So we were reading Albert Memmi, for example, and we were reading authors who described the liberation struggles in Africa and in Latin America. So what we decided to do, a few of us, specifically Omar and myself, we said, well, there's no course on Latinos in the US. Why don't we find out why there isn't one, and why don't we ask the administration to create one. So we met with people from LAS. We said, look, we need a course on Latinos in the US. And we had a conversation back and forth. The final outcome was that they said, yes, we agree with you. You need to have a course on Latinos in the US. We only have one problem. There's nobody on campus who can teach the course. None of the faculty members had that kind of background. So we said, that's not a problem. We can teach it ourselves. We had been around in Chicago and other parts of the city, other parts of the country. We had read quite a bit and said, we can teach the course. So arrangements were made so that one of the faculty members from the Spanish department, Lidia Fernandez, a Cuban professor, would be the professor of record, and Omar and I took it upon ourselves to teach the course. The first course that was taught on campus by students on Latinos in the United States. And very interesting because we had all kinds of Latinos in the class, Cubans, Colombians, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, and of course, some of the contradictions emerged. The Cubans, of course, got a little upset, a little riled up when we mentioned the fact that Cuba had been mentioned by a recent study by the United Nations as having the best education and health system. Mm-hmm. So you could not only sense the tension, and they were screaming and yelling, and you guys have never been in Cuba, so you can't talk about Cuba. I said, well, we haven't been to the moon, so we can't talk about the moon. Okay? Anyway, we managed to get that through, and I think it was a year later, I was asked to teach another course on Latinos in the US. Fortunately, I had some good students, some not so good, including one of them who went on to become an alderman from the 25th Ward, who became disgraced by recording his fellow alderman. You know who I'm talking about. Danny Solis, right? So anyway, he was one of my students, unfortunately. But anyway, it was fun. It was messy, but it was necessary. So.
Thank you. So this next question is for Irma and Carlos, and then I'll have a question for Ada. And I wish we could be here all day, really, honestly, listening to these stories. But in the interest of time, Irma and Carlos, if you could each comment on why, you've talked about this already, I think, in your opening remarks, but why was the Latin American Latino Studies program important to Latino students and to community activists at the time, beyond, the racist things that you were learning in the classrooms here on campus?
Latin American Studies was quite important because it was a place where students in the university could meet and learn and experience the connection between the students and the community and the things that were happening in our own countries. And to learn in a way that was having a commitment to do something about it in one way or another. To teach, to learn, to protest, do whatever necessary, but support your community, support your country where you come from, and do something about it. I think that in a way, the community and these ties to the community were very important because, at least for what I can remember, in 1973, what was clear for us when we were fighting, to get the Latin American recruitment program for Latinos was that if we did not bring the community into the university to demand that the university respond to the surrounding community and to the community of Chicago, to citizens, to people, I mean, it's a public university. and it has to serve the people, that provide the money. So I think that the way that we thought about it, I think, was that the community responded strongly because they thought what we thought, that the students that came to this university would become leaders in this city to make a change. And I think that that's what we got from talking to each other, from talking to other students, from going to the high schools to recruit students, to bring them to LARP or to, into the university. When we were doing that, when I was teaching some of the students algebra and trigonometry so that they could get into the university, when we were teaching at Latino youth, when we were doing things both in the community and the university. And I think that Latin American Studies was the place where we could get together, plan, organize, and figure out how to keep this connection with our communities.
Carlos?
We were, I guess you can call it, we were the unofficial recruiters in our own communities. With LALS, we set up chapters of LALS in different colleges and high schools, at Harrison High School, at Wells High School, and different high schools, St. Mary's High School, and we had a community presence. We had a space in Pilsen, 17th place in Halsted, a physical location where we would meet on Sundays, and all these students from other high schools and colleges would get together and exchange notes, and of course, some of the strategies that each college or each high school would follow were recommendations basically coming from everyone. We would go to, one example, we went to Harrison High School at one point, and the reason why they let us in is that because we said, look, we want our students to go to college. We want them to get an education, want them to get ahead. So they said, fine, you can come in such a day, such a time. So we went there, and of course that was part of the reason. The other reason was basically to raise consciousness. We did some theater, some skits that we had also learned from the Teatro Campesino when we were in Denver and other places. And so the idea was to promote pride in your own history, in your own struggles. So the idea was to get these students to find out how Mexicans and Puerto Ricans and other Latinos had managed to survive, and not only survive, but had managed to oppose open racism and had managed to win a number of battles. We went to so many high schools. At one time, the authorities at Harrison High School, they called the cops on us because they felt we were too radical. We had diverted from the main goal of getting students to go to college. So we were active both on campus and off campus. So it was a little difficult, but we had a family, married, a wife, kids, and it was a little difficult, but hey, that's the way it goes, and that's the way it went. So the reason why we wanted to set up a Latin American Studies program and make it better was precisely for those students whom we had recruited by our presence at their high schools and encouraged them to come. They would have a place for them to learn about their own roots. We had to face some problems at the beginning because there was a gentleman who was supposed to be the one running the only Latin American Studies program, who was here at University Hall, very conservative Mexican gentleman who was teaching Mexican literature. We try to have conversations with him, try to impress upon him the importance of moving ahead, expanding the program, and since he saw that we were not going to back down and he was not going to go in that direction, he decided to resign. So he resigned, and that left the whole field open. That's when we started to organize. We put together a committee. We had a committee of five students and 5 faculty members. And that committee was basically the committee that worked to bring our first full-time faculty member, Mary Kay Vaughn. And later on, that's how we got Otto Picasa also as the director. So we were moving ahead. We're moving ahead slowly but surely.
On that note, thank you, Carlos. On that note, Ada, I wanted to turn to you and ask about what the vision was for LALS, particularly how the first director, Otto Picasa, carried out that vision.
What I like to do is tell you a little bit about Otto Picasa, because we have Mary Kay here who worked shoulder to shoulder with Otto, Mark Zimmerman, and there are others. I'm not sure people knew Otto Picasa. I think people thought that he was from Spain. And you know, when you're a Basque nationalist, that's not a compliment. But he understood. He understood the history and why people thought that. You know, let me just share with you some notes. So Otto Picasa was, and I had the notes. I've been shifting notes because people are repeating. But anyway, so Otto Picasa was born in Portugalete, a small town right outside of Bilbao. His childhood was marked by the brutal bombings of the Basque region by the Nazi forces, aiding Franco's dictatorship. These are events that left scars and vivid memories of violence and oppression, including, public hangings of nationalist priest, and the outlawing of the Basque language, Euskera. Otto did not, and he felt a sense of loss because he did not know his own language. So these events did not make Otto bitter or negative. On the contrary, it prepared him, to envision a better world. And these experiences also shaped and sharpened his strategic thinking, his intellect, his thirst for justice, liberation, and his sensitivity. Maybe some of you know, but he did like writing poetry, and he reread English and Spanish literature, and he was a wonderful cook, a chef. His way of relaxing was to go and have a meeting of the minds with some of the chefs in Chicago and compare recipes and techniques. And often I would get home and he would be reading Macbeth, and I said, "But didn't you read that last year?" "Oh yeah, I'm rereading it," he say. And this is the Otto that was charged with creating Latin American studies. He was not the first director. He was so much more. Because when he came, there was nothing. Remember, there was hardly any students on campus, and there was nothing. But he took his charge seriously, and he started collaborating with the students. And informed by the students and their activism, he moved forward. And on one hand, he had to maneuver through a university system that ignored Latin American studies or else was plain hostile. Even in 1996, when I was a trustee of the university, a colleague came up to me, another trustee from downstate, and said, "Well, everybody knows that's just a place for socialists. That's just a haven for socialists and radicals." And that was 1996. So, this was what existed at the time. And then the community. I was working already as a bilingual teacher. I was demonstrating for bilingual education, for funding. That was another reform and revolution we wanted. I was no longer on campus, but I would hear of what was happening, and on the other side, you had the university on one hand attacking, ignoring. On the other hand, you had an impatience growing on the part of the community who wanted things now. We used to have a saying at the time. We used to say, "I want it now. I want to see this in my lifetime." And so you had this, this pull and from a push-pull from different sides. But Otto remained for more than a decade, and 2 decades, more than 20 years. He remained as director. He did not publish. His contribution can be seen in the programs that we have on campus, and this is this is a basis for how this program now in the celebration is a testament to what he contributed and his dedication for more than 20 years. I used to tell him, "Why don't you do what other professors do? Take time and publish and do what you want to know." He wanted to finish. And of course, when you're trying to change a system, there is always unfinished business.
Thank you. Very well put. Since we're running out of time here, one last question that I want to pose to each of you. If you could reflect on and share what you believe the legacy is of your activism and that of others who are here in this room and who contributed to the founding of Latin American Studies. And in particular, what you want students to know today, in addition to the comments you've already shared.
Well, I came on campus and to study bilingual education. It was an interdisciplinary program created by a wonderful woman who had studied law at Harvard and was also an educator, Silvia Herrera Fox. She was the first director of Aspira, and it was her brainchild, this interdisciplinary program to prepare bilingual teachers. So this was separate from Teacher Corps. In this program, we did share professors. Otto Picasa did teach us the ideologies underlying, educational theories and so forth, and that's and that's a legacy, because when we started, there was nothing. And one of the things I want people to remember is that there were many movements taking place at the same time, and many of us participated in the different ones. So it was Latin American study struggle, but at the same time, I was on campus at the College of Education. We had a struggle there for bilingual education. And so these things were all happening at the same time. I think when I think of this university, I think that was one of the legacies, a bilingual program for preparing teachers, because it wasn't there before we started. And of course, as a trustee, I protected all the programs that we had created long time ago, and I made sure the budgets were not cut. I made sure that they were not dismantled. LALS was not dismantled to become part of a multi-cultural center. And there were many contributions in that way. And I also saved St. Francis Church with the community, and even blocked a grant to send and train policemen to take to El Salvador or something like that. So our legacy, and not just me, but our legacy, has taken 50 years, and And what was the other question?
What you want students to know.
Oh, okay. I want to give the students an example of how this works. Here's how it works. So in May 5, 1992, a coalition of students gathered at the Henry Administration Building in Urbana-Champaign and submitted a list of demands. And I learned of this, and I said, wait a minute, those were the exact demands that we submitted, and we, in 1973. What year is this? How can that, And so that was in May. By November of the same year, 1952, I had secured the endorsement of the Democratic Party of Illinois. I campaigned through the corn and the soybean fields of Illinois, and I went to places where they had not seen a Latina before, and they were all, excited about my campaign because they said no trustee has ever campaigned, but I did, so I won with almost 3 million votes. Okay, now the students had been arrested. They were protesting. They had been arrested. So what do you think is the first thing I did? I directed the administration to expunge the records of the students who had been arrested. I did not want them to carry that with them. And so I want the students, and that's what I want the students and others others who know this, but to remember that we need to work in an intergenerational way and we need to divide up the labor. Had I not protested and had my experience, I would have not had the sensitivity. If the students did not have me as someone they could go to, I wouldn't have been able to do as much as I did. I also wanted to democratize the university system. So I was not the typical trustee. I reached out, I spoke with the different people on campus to learn what their point of view was. Otherwise, you are like a colleague of mine said, treated like a mushroom, kept in the dark and fed, what. So, intergenerational work, coalition building, coordinating your efforts when you want to change something. But most of all, knowing yourself. What are the values that drive you? And if you find yourself in a position where you are the first and there's nothing there, what in your character will keep you, will keep that tenacity that you need in order to succeed.
Well said, Ada. I want to say something that for me it's very important. I'm a feminist. I keep on fighting the fight that we have been fighting for such a long time, violence, and I think that many of our communities still are having that fight. So I dream that the legacy of our activism will motivate young people to realize that change in any society can be and will be achieved when the new generations confront the power structure in this country and demand to outline, create, and construct the university, community, society, humanity that you envision. So I think that includes the richness of your identities, your histories, your biographies, and your dreams. I believe that in a way that has already happened here at UIC because I can see the energy and the vibrancy that is happening. I walked through the campus and I said, this looks so different from when I was here, a long time ago. So I think that all of this variety of students here have brought to this university with LALS and with Latin American and Latino Studies Department a great hope. And I think that that can be felt. So I think that my message is for young people because you see, like once somebody said, I'm going to die, so I'm thinking of who's coming after me, Never, my message is for the young generations, never, ever let anybody tell you that you, your family, or your community do not deserve the best that society can give. Because we all have created the wealth and the richness of this country in all the places where we go. We create richness. So don't forget, our presence, identity, culture, and dreams are all part of the intangible cultural heritage as defined by UNESCO for this society and for the world. Be proud of it.
Thank you. Carlos, and then Ada had one last thing she wanted to add, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay. Just quickly, I think the important things that we want to leave with the students, the young people, not only on campus, but in the community, because we still have the large majority in the community, and not as many as we would like to see on campus, even though the numbers have increased. We need to see more. With the changing demographics in the country, with the unsolved areas in society, the millions of undocumented workers and undocumented youth, there's a lot of work to be done. There are many things that need to be proposed. One of them, for example, would be something akin to some countries in Western Europe where permanent residents, not citizens, but permanent residents, are allowed to vote in municipal elections. Maybe not in presidential elections, but at least in municipal elections. That's something that needs to be considered, something that needs to be put out there, some things that's going to be challenged by the other forces, but it's something that we need to go there. These individuals, documented or undocumented, pay their taxes, and they have a right to have a say-so. The other thing that I think we need to look at is we need to also look not only outwardly, but also inwardly. We need to find out and see if what we've created or what we are creating along the way is fair to the largest number of people. For example, I have not taken a look at the number of courses that are offered by the department. I don't know what the breakdown is in terms of topics, for example, related to different groups, Mexicans or Mexican Americans, Puerto Ricans, Central Americans, South Americans. But I think that we need to pay attention to the notion of proportionality, and that courses and topics for courses need to relate also to the presence of these groups. And I would venture to say, I hope I'm wrong, but I would venture to say that we have some work to be done in terms of the curriculum or the number of courses reflecting the large numbers of Mexicans in the United States, being the largest Latino group in the United States. I was looking at some other programs, for example, in Wisconsin, in Minnesota, and in Michigan, these three public universities have programs similar to ours. But the way they labeled them was basically Chicano and Latino Studies in Wisconsin, Chicano and Latino Studies in Minnesota, Chicano and Latino Studies in Michigan. And in our case, it's the other way around. We don't even mention the word Chicano. I understand that the makeup of the population is different in Chicago, but the huge number of Latinos in Chicago and the suburbs is Mexican. So I think we need to, without taking anything away from other nationalities or other groups, I think we need to reach a level where everybody's needs are met. Not diminished, but increased. So I would invite people on campus, off campus, to explore these areas and to take some steps to correct some of these deficiencies.
Thank you. Finally,
Yeah.
very quickly.
And of course, there's always the question of the colonization of Puerto Rico. But anyway, but yeah, in reflecting, I just wanted to say that one of the things that was very different at the time is that we were progressive activists. We coalesced on campus, and we focused on different fronts. The original vision for Latin American studies included everything. It was even the department, even creating a department. Even back then, it was imagined in that way. I think that the interconnectiveness, the intersectionality of the efforts that we make has to be paid attention to. It has to be focused on, because I think that's where there's a lot of creative and a lot of possibilities for the future. We had Latin American studies, but Latin American studies was everything. It was culture, it was education, and it was counseling. Soriana Zabrowski, who was on loan from the Spanish department, she took care of students. They didn't want to go to admissions. They lined the hallways. They sat there and lined the hallways. They wanted to be there. But anyway, so this idea of connecting things, not compartmentalizing, because it occurs to me that when we create something, it has to fit our organizational model. Because if we start fitting our idea into the system and how it exists, then what we're doing is running the risk of our vision being co-opted or modified into those categories that do not represent us.
Thank you, Ada. So I hope that this has been inspiring to current students, a walk down memory lane for some former students, faculty, and staff, a history lesson for all of us, and informative for community members and others. Please join me in thanking our panel.